how do you juggle personal time, couple time, and family time? Like, there's a lot of responsibility there, and we all want to do all three of them really well. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your stepfamily from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting as a team,
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe that with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of stepfamily life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey, welcome to episode 3.
Woo-hoo.
We're so excited to jump into this. Now, when we first considered launching this podcast, we directly asked those of you who were already connected with us, maybe on social media, on email, or maybe you were actually working directly with us, but we just asked for the topics that matter to you most. Yeah. Now, one of you asked us to talk about this dynamic that we call being a trapped teammate and a stranded stranger. And specifically, how do we juggle personal time, couple time, and family time? Yeah. And so we're going to talk about this trapped teammate, stranded stranger thing and juggling all that, those responsibilities and the time that we really want to spend with each other. Yeah. But man, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yep. And so real quick, before we dive into all of that, we would really love it if you would leave us a review on iTunes. We know there's lots of blended family couples out there who would love a consistent resource to help them every week to just move something forward in their family. And believe it or not, you leaving us a 5-star rating is going to help them to do that by making this podcast more visible to couples that are looking for help. So just please consider helping us out by reviewing this podcast. Yeah. We'd really appreciate it.
And helping them out. So first, let's go ahead and talk about what is a trapped teammate and what is a stranded stranger. So I'm going to talk about the trapped teammate first. And this is the bio parent, and they really feel trapped on the inside of all the relationships in the blended family. And they're kind of stuck between their kids and their partner. It kind of feels like being the rope in a tug of war. The kids want one thing, your spouse wants the other thing, and you're stuck in this decision-making place. And really, you just want everyone to be happy, one big happy team, and you want to pull the team together. But a lot of times, the bio parent really feels like the team is fragmented and they're working towards different goals, and you're in the middle trying to hold the team together, and it's really exhausting.
Yeah, that can be really, you're trapped and you're a teammate. That can be really challenging. Now, the stranded stranger really is the step parent who's stranded on the outside of the relationships. They're stuck outside that tight bond that they might see between their partner and their stepkids. Yeah. I've experienced that before. You're almost feeling like you're kind of a stranger in your own home sometimes. It's those times where you feel like you just don't quite belong. You're like the third wheel.
Yeah, it's a lonely place.
It is, yeah. And it is lonely. It's disappointing because it's not what we expected headed in. And it can be really frustrating too, because we're trying to break through that barrier that's invisible, that we almost can't see. And so we're stranded on the outside, feeling like a stranger. Yeah. This whole trapped teammate, stranded stranger thing, it's really common.
So
it's actually
common.
A normal thing. In fact, I would go so far as to say, you can disagree with me if you want, honey, but I would go so far as to say that every couple that we have ever worked with experiences this dynamic to some degree or another. Now, some it's really strong, and others it's not quite as bad, but have we found a couple yet that didn't identify with that?
I don't think so. In fact,
Okay.
I would say that this is your new normal.
Yeah,
if you're in a blended family, this is your new normal.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're excited to talk about this today.
Absolutely.
Because it can be really, really frustrated for both partners.
Now, if you happen to be listening to this and you're going, well, you guys are crazy, like I don't feel that at all, then please email us. We want to meet you. We want to talk to you.
You better go celebrate.
Yeah, you can email me at mike@mikeandkimcoaching.com. I promise I'll answer. I would love to hear that you just don't ever experience this. I want to know why.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is this can get really complex really fast because we say, that bio parent is a trapped teammate and the step parent is a stranded stranger. But a lot of people are living in complex step families where they both brought kids from previous relationships. And guess what? That means you get to experience both of those dynamics on a pretty regular basis. Like you could feel both of those within the course of a day, maybe multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging. And the one of the hardest parts about all this is there isn't actually a quick fix for it.
There isn't?
No, I wish there was. I wish there was a silver bullet.
I want the silver bullet.
I know. The reality is, though, that kind of pulling out of the pain that comes with these dynamics is really all about a lot of little intentional decisions on a daily basis. And that really requires patience and it requires a plan. And so we're going to be talking a little bit more about this from lots of different angles in future episodes. This whole trapped teammate, stranded stranger thing is probably going to be a theme that's going to pop up quite often in this podcast.
A lot of aspects to that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So for now, let's just touch down on one aspect of this whole thing.
Yeah, we want to dive deep today into one of the major things, maybe the number one thing that helps reduce all of these emotions that come with the dynamic of the trapped teammate and the stranded stranger. And that number one thing is to build unity as a couple. One of the fastest ways to get united is to sit down and figure out a common goal and build a plan together.
Yeah.
And honey, I'm not much of a planner.
No, not at all.
But this is one area that you really just need to get on the same plan, on the same team, and working consistently together as a team, everyone doing their part. It really helps to change those daily experiences when we're feeling stuck in those moments of being stranded or trapped. We've got to have a plan in place of how we're going to handle this.
Yeah. And one of the specific things that every couple can really build a goal and a plan around is how we're going to prioritize our time, our energy, and our attention. And so that takes us back to that question that we received of, how do you juggle personal time, couple time, and family time? Like there's a lot of responsibility there, and we all want to do all three of them really well. And so getting this one right is going to help you make some huge strides in reducing those negative emotions of the trapped teammate, stranded stranger dynamic, because those difficult feelings are really all about loyalties and priorities. Yeah.
For sure.
So the more intentional that we can be around this, the more connected and accepted we can feel with each other and really within our family as well.
Yeah. It helps to ease those things up because, being the trapped teammate, I can totally relate. Yeah. Having a plan and getting united, it can really help relieve some of those big tug of war moments when you're just feeling like you're forced to make that decision to choose between your kids or your spouse. If you have a place, if you've come into some agreements with each other around how you're going to prioritize time, this really helps you just to be able to focus on one or the other without feeling torn or without feeling guilty. And you're not deprioritizing the other one. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you've got a plan put together. And that way, when you do need to choose the kids, when it's time to spend time with the kids, you don't have to feel guilty about your spouse because you've agreed. You have an agreement around how time is going to be spent. Yeah,
and vice versa, right? So those times where we had a plan and you were spending time with me, you didn't really feel so bad that Annika wasn't by your side 24/7 because we knew more time with her was coming.
Yeah,
that's good.
We had it mapped out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true for the stranded stranger as well. As a step parent, sometimes I felt left in the dust. But when we had a plan and we come together and get unified around that plan about how we're going to prioritize things, I actually felt more included with you. I felt valued, that your opinion really mattered, that you wanted my input. Yeah. My opinion mattered. Yeah.
Of course, my opinion matters.
Yes, that's true. Well, your opinion does matter, honey.
Yeah.
But, even when you're spending time then with Annika or, you're choosing time with the kids, I know there's a plan and I've got confidence that couple times around the corner.
Yeah.
And we're going to make that a priority as well because we've already gotten on the same page.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's important in our journey because you are one that really needs a lot of time.
I do. Yeah, I do. I need date nights, right?
Yep.
I need a really good rhythm of date nights.
Yeah.
And that's a key word in all this, that if you don't take anything else out of this podcast, grab the word rhythm and get that in your mind. Because you know what? We live in a culture that likes to focus on the word balance. You know, we hear work-life balance. We hear the word balance all over. And what balance really suggests is equity. Like I'm going to be putting the exact same amount of time into and energy and focus into my work as I am into my family. Well, in the real world, when we jump into that, it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
And so I like to think a lot more about what rhythm looks like as opposed to balance, because, you know, I don't know that the kids and the spouse and all of us together as a family, I don't know that those kinds of things, those three different things, all need the exact 33.3333% of our time and focus and energy.
Yeah, that's pretty small-minded to think that that's possible, I think.
But it does mean that we need to have a good rhythm that's investing in all three of those areas in a really healthy way.
We need to expand our vision around this.
Yeah.
Definitely. And another question that comes up around all of this is, you know, how much time is appropriate? And what's the right amount of time I should be spending with my kids or with my spouse? They want kind of a formula. And there isn't one. We can't answer that for you.
Yeah, I wish.
It really is a matter of sitting down as a couple, talking about it and deciding what you feel is appropriate in this season. You know your kids, you know each other, you know yourselves. You know what season you're in as a family, what your visitation schedule is like. That could impact this. How can you make a plan that maximizes your time? And, you know, what other demands do you have going on?
Thinking of this in terms of rhythm can really help, you know, when, as Kim's talking about with the different stages and ages and all of those things that come with us, rhythm versus balance really helps us pull all this out.
And it gives you more freedom too.
And I'm gonna challenge you too. You know, when we're worried about trying to get our time right, the time investment right with different members of our family, I'm going to challenge you to think about what's on your stop doing list. Like, are we making the best of everything that we're saying yes to? And sometimes we've got to learn to say no to things that are good so that we can say yes to something better. So, you know, that's a really tough conversation to have as a family, especially when we're all doing really good things. But I'll challenge you to really think through what's on your stop doing list. Now, for the rest of our time, we want to go through 3 quick tips for good teamwork as you're building your plan. And then we're going to look at all 3 of those areas that we're trying to juggle: that personal time, couple time, and family time. So here's 3 quick tips, and then we'll talk about those 3 different areas we want to focus on.
So the first tip is don't avoid this topic. Oh, gosh. Sometimes we think in our mind, you know, it'll just work itself out, or, it'll get better. And so we just kind of avoid and skirt around things. And, you know, we're here to tell you in step family life, that is not the way to think. Things just get worse when you avoid them. No. So don't avoid it. You might be listening to this on your own and you're realizing that you've never had this kind of conversation with your spouse before. And it might even feel uncomfortable or awkward, but you've got to talk through it and you've got to work towards those common goals. You know, the bottom line is avoidance simply creates more problems. It really does. So maybe your first step today is just to approach your spouse and ask them if they listen to this episode with you and have a little discussion after that.
Yeah, that's a good, easy step.
But don't avoid.
That's right. No avoidance. and, you know, tip number 2 is you've got to handle your conflict well. A lot of times when these kind of conversations come up, you know, you're going to enter into a negotiation here. And sometimes negotiation means conflict. But here's the thing, you know, conflict doesn't necessarily mean your relationship is unstable or something's wrong. In fact, most couples report feeling closer when they go through a conflict resolution in a really healthy way. And we'll have a lot more to say about conflict in future episodes. That's a whole topic in itself. But when you're working on building unity, using some healthy conflict strategies is a must. So you kind of got to figure out what that is for you. So don't avoid the topic. Make sure to handle your conflict well. And
tip number 3 is work behind closed doors. Really important. Don't talk about the kids in front of the kids.
Yes.
Don't drag them into this. They need to see that you're building unity as a team, that you can make decisions as a team. And so make sure you kind of protect them from that. These are things that they don't need to be worrying about. They may have, their input, but that doesn't mean that they're in charge.
Have their input. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Negotiating a decision between the two of you in front of the kids really adds a whole nother dynamic that doesn't need to be there. It's not helpful. And typically we know the kids will probably side with the bio parent on this, right? They'll insert themselves.
Unless the step parent is arguing for something that goes their way.
Yeah, that's true.
We've had that happen too. Yeah.
But a lot of times they'll wedge, they'll drive a little wedge between the two of you.
Yep.
And that's not what we want. That could drive a wedge between everyone eventually. And again, that puts the bio parent in that position of having to choose.
Yeah.
So protect them from this conversation.
Yeah.
Really decide as a team how you want to move forward. And then communicate to the kids what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's really good. So,
and I'm going to add one more tip.
Yeah.
You're probably surprised.
I love it. Let's hear it. What's your tip?
I have tip number 4 is put your empathy skills to work as you're communicating.
Yeah.
Listen to your partner. Listen to their emotions. Listen to what they're experiencing. Really try to put yourself into their shoes.
Yeah.
Don't just go for what you want, but really try to accommodate each other and understand each other.
We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion. All right, so our goal for sitting down together as a couple here is to talk through how we're going to create healthy rhythms of personal time, couple time, and family time. And to do that, we just gave you a few tips. First, don't avoid the topic, don't avoid having this conversation. Make sure that you're using healthy conflict skills, so handling your conflict well. You want to work behind closed doors, so make your agreements and then come out and tell the kids later. And then Kim added a bonus tip of really putting your empathy skills to work. So we're going to do all of those things while we sit down and talk through this. So now let's just talk about those 3 areas and some thoughts for that.
Yeah.
Personal time is really important.
It is.
Self-care is key, because if you're unhealthy as an individual or you're not taking care of yourself the way you really should be, then you're not going to be the parent or the step parent or the spouse that you really want to be. Good self-care habits makes us better in all these other areas. And so it's really important that we are intentional around how we're having good personal care time. What's the healthy habits or the healthy hobbies or the healthy friendships that really replenish you? What are some of those things for you, honey?
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, going to the beach combing is a great thing. I'm a bit of an introvert, so spending time alone is really replenishing for me.
I was just going to ask you, so do you want all of us to go to the beach with you?
No, I want to spend time alone at the beach, wandering, pondering, picking up shells, that type of thing. I also like to do crafts that relieves stress and helps me to engage my creative side. So those are things that replenish me. And one thing I've found, especially with parenting, is you can't give what you don't have. So if you want to bring peace and calm and understanding when you parent, you've got to have that first for yourself. If you're feeling chaotic and stretched and overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to bring your best self to the table, to your family. So self-care is absolutely crucial. And it's nothing anyone should feel guilty about doing. It's something that should be worked into the rhythm of everyday life.
Yeah, that's really good. Now we're talking, you just used the word rhythm. We're talking about rhythm. So you named two things, your beachcombing thing and your craft thing. So what's the rhythm around those things?
Oh, well, the beachcombing thing is, every couple months. It's,
half a
how
day,
I get.
every couple months.
Yep. I'm like, I need my beach fix and I'll take a day off and go head out. Sometimes I've gone hiking before too, just by myself. The crafting thing is something I can do anytime. I have it set up in my craft room. I can do it for 10 minutes or 2 hours. It just depends.
I would say your rhythm is daily, though.
Daily, definitely. I daily have to express myself in that way.
Sometimes it's 10 minutes. Well, once in a while, it's 10 minutes. Usually it's a couple hours.
It can be 10 minutes.
What's funny is like my healthy habits and hobbies and friends, they're totally different because I'm a big extrovert. If I don't like a lot of alone time.
No.
And that's tough for Kim sometimes because she's a big introvert. So she's really thankful for my healthy friendships.
Yes, I am.
I spend a lot of time in the coffee shop. With other guys. And what's interesting about the rhythm piece of that is I've got some guys that I do hang out with on a weekly basis. I've got some other guys that I hang out with kind of more on a monthly basis. And that is so replenishing for me just to go and hang out with them and invest in their lives and them, invest in mine and all that. So, all of these things, we've just named some habits. Kim named a hobby. I'm talking about friendships. What are those healthy things that you need? And what does the rhythm look like around you? And you got to think of some things like what kind of time investment is realistic?
Yeah.
You might have an hour a week. You might have an hour every 2 weeks. I don't know what that looks like for you. But you've got to be intentional about that rhythm for the season that you're in right now.
Yeah, maybe you don't have time to take a weekly painting class, but painting is one of your things. So you spend, 10 minutes a day or an hour every couple of days just painting. Maybe you don't, have to invest in a class right now.
And other things that are in this realm of self-care is just, your physical health. Are you getting exercise? Like good healthy habit I have is walking the dog every day. I'm usually, 30, 35 minutes. Taking the dog. The other piece that's really important is our emotional health. Yes. We've been in seasons, I know I've been definitely in seasons where I've had to regularly go and see a counselor. That was probably one of the best investments I ever made in our family. And that required time and energy and focus.
Investment.
And I had to have a good rhythm of that. So think about those things as well when it comes to your personal time. What's that healthy rhythm? Again, not a balance, but rhythm. How are you thinking of that?
You need to care for yourself.
So what's the next area we got to pay attention to?
Well, the next area is couple time. Right? We need to make time for romance.
That's my favorite time.
I know. You love couple time. So we know people living in blended families have a lot to manage. You've got all the responsibilities and the business of running a step family. And a lot of times that can just suck the romance right out of your relationship. It happens really quickly.
Yep.
We hear about it all the time. Couples coming to us saying, oh, we used to do this. We used to do that. Well, we haven't done that for a long time. So we've got to be intentional about building our romance and keep that time just for us. We need that time. And we need to put some healthy boundaries around that time.
Yep.
We've had seasons like that where we still do. We go out and we decide up front, we're not going to talk about parenting. We're not going to talk about problems.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about chores or finances or all the business stuff. We're just going to enjoy each other and just make a heart-to-heart connection.
And sometimes that's hard to do.
It is. We've had seasons where that was really difficult.
We're like, okay, well then what will we talk about?
Yeah, that's for a future episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But you've got to find that healthy rhythm to invest in your relationship.
Absolutely. And you have to ask yourself, well, what does a healthy rhythm look like here? You can look at it through a couple different lenses. Think about the small ticket connection points and the big ticket connection points. So, what I mean by that is like the small ticket connections. Maybe you commit to having a weekly date night, or maybe right now you can only do biweekly, like every 2 weeks. That's okay. Yeah. Maybe for you, getting out seems impossible. Yeah. And so if you've got little kids at home and they go to bed kind of early, maybe it's time to just pick a night and have a romantic dinner by candlelight after the kids go to bed, just the two of you. Or maybe you're more of a daily couple where you have like a 10-minute time you call it a check-in or something. We used to call it couch time, where you just kind of block everybody out and send them all to another room where you can just focus on each other even for 10 minutes. So think about that rhythm on the small ticket thing, that daily or weekly or monthly connection. But then also think about what are those big ticket connections? Yeah. Maybe a weekend getaway, maybe once or twice a year. Maybe you can only do that every 2 years, but even if that's the case, at least it's on the calendar. Yeah. You've got something to look forward to. And
it's coming.
And it doesn't have to be this huge, gigantic trip to some tropical island, although that would be nice. Yeah. But really, one of our favorite places to go on a weekend away is like 30 minutes from our house. It doesn't have to be a gigantic trip. So think in those terms, like what are the small ticket, what are the big ticket, and how do you create a rhythm around that?
Yeah. And we hear all the time, we do that when the kids are at their other house, when it's just the two of us here. And that's great. But we also want to encourage you to model to the kids that you're investing in your relationship. And it's possible that the kids are going to push back on that. At least one kid is going to object to you spending one-on-one time or hiring a babysitter so you can go out. And this dynamic sometimes happens when we're single parents. That we really focus all of our time and attention on our kids. We're so invested in them and we kind of don't have much of a life of our own. And so that's what our kids are used to, right? Yep. They get used to having our undivided attention all the time. And then, we repartner and now there's this new romantic relationship.
Yeah. Hey, I want some attention too.
Yes, exactly. And the kids feel like, wait a minute. What are we losing out on here? We're used to having all this time and attention. Yep. And they kind of puts them into this competitive mode or feeling jealous toward the step parent. And, we had a gal in one of our classes once, and she shared that her kids were really giving her pushback. She was in this situation, and she realized that, my kids during that season when I was a single mom got way more time and attention than kids in a first family do. Yeah. They don't get all this complete undivided attention. A first family couple is dating and doing things and going away on trips, and the kids have babysitters.
Yeah, since the time they were born. Yeah. And they've never known anything different. But kids who've had that experience throughout single parent years do know something different. Yeah. And now we're adjusting again, and that can be really challenging.
Yeah. So if that's the case for you, respond with empathy, reassure your kids, remind them of that intentional time that you're planning to spend with them. That's going to be part of your plan. Yep. Or time that you've spent with them recently. And just let them talk and just, again, put on your empathy skills. But remember that your kids really need to see you investing in your relationship and that you're making your relationship a priority. It's really important because you want to model that to your kids. You want to model what a healthy marriage looks like, because that's going to equip them for their future. Absolutely. Right? I mean, that's a healthy way. Yeah. And it also gives them some security.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they see that you're working on your relationship, that gives them some security that, oh, you know, this is going to work out.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean we take that all the way to this extreme. Like
No.
sometimes we've had people in here to say, you know, our marriage is number one at all costs. And really what they're doing sometimes is kind of isolating the kids almost in the name of trying to make their marriage a priority. It's true. Marriage needs to be a priority in blended family life, but there's some strategies on how to get there. So this isn't a hard line thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're talking about this as being a healthy rhythm.
Yeah. And again, this is what's right for your family.
Yes.
You need to decide what this looks like in
Absolutely.
your dynamics.
Yeah. So we've got personal time, we've got couple time, and then we've got family time. And really there's two types of family time we're going to kind of talk about here that you need to consider. What's the rhythm here? You know, the first time is just that kind of family time that we all think about. You know, we're all together, we're doing something fun, hanging out or playing a game or whatever it might be.
Crammed in a Suburban.
Yeah, we talked about that in episode 1. Or maybe it was last episode. I can't remember. We talked about that before. That's kind of what we think about when it comes to family time. Yeah. Now, for some families right now, that might be difficult for you. You know, we talked about last time in episode 2 that for blended families, the tensions are often the highest when the whole family is together. So you might really need to strategize around this. And what does that healthy rhythm look like for you? Because we can't just say, well, tensions are really high, so we're just not going to do family time. But it might look different for us. Yeah. And so if family time is really tough for you right now, it doesn't mean we're quitting trying. It just means we're trying things on a smaller scale.
Yeah, and that's okay.
So instead of the big suburban trip together, maybe we're just going to try to make it through a dinner out at a restaurant together this time. And you know what? If dinner at a restaurant is tough for you, then maybe we're just going to walk the dog together this afternoon, or we're going to grab an ice cream cone together. Because you got to remember, when things are tough, 10 to 15 minutes of family time that doesn't blow up, that's a win. That's really good. And you need to celebrate that and go, wow, that's some progress.
It's okay.
And then we keep at it. We create a regular rhythm and be really intentional and strategic and just keep going until you can make that next step. Maybe next time it'll be a half an hour and the tensions will stay curbed, you know? Maybe the time after that, it'll be 45 minutes. And just really experience that progress and celebrate it and be intentional. Don't get discouraged.
It's okay for it to be simple.
Yeah. And all this takes time. You're building relationships, and relationships don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So, you know, on the flip side, maybe that's not you. Maybe family time is clicking along. Everyone's getting along. That is great. We've met some families that are like that, and we love that.
That's awesome.
So enjoy that time together and make sure the rhythm of it is healthy. So in other words, this could actually go the other way. Don't plan so much family time that your personal and your couple time actually suffers, because long-term, that's going to work against you. So pay attention to that. So there's that family time where everybody's together, but there's a different kind of family time. What is it, hon?
Of course, there's that one-on-one time with the kids, and that's so important in any family. But it's a great tool for a blended family, especially when that all-together family time is tough. The one-on-one strategy is so helpful.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really important for kids to feel secure in their relationship with bio mom or bio dad, especially if you're in the early years of your journey. So that healthy rhythm, it really gives them security. It helps to lessen that threat or any fears that they might have. And like we said earlier, if they're pushing against you with the date night planning, if they object to that, you know, you can really remind your kids, I've got some time planned with you. We're going to go do this together. We're going to go do that together. And a specific time just for you. Yeah. So that they know that, that they're not being left behind, because they can sometimes have a lot of fears about that.
Or remind them, hey, we just had some one-on-one time, and now I'm going to have one-on-one time with, as a couple.
Now, if you've noticed that the relationship between the step-parent and the stepchild is really tense, if that's kind of going on, if there is some jealousy or some competition from the child, here's another tip I want to throw out there. When you're scheduling bio time with your bio child, if the step parent can intentionally show a lot of excitement about that lets that child know, wow, the step parent wants me to spend time with my parent. They're not against me or trying to disrupt this relationship. They're for me and they're excited about it. So if the step parent can really be encouraging, wow, you're going roller skating with your mom today? That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when they get home, tell me about what you and your mom did. That's great that you got to spend that time together.
Yeah.
Really let them know that you're on board with this. You're excited about this.
I think I did okay on that with Annika. Yeah. I think I did that. And step parents, this is a really, really good tip. I mean, this is a simple thing you can do. All you have to do is show a little bit of excitement and a little bit of energy around that time that your spouse and your stepchild are getting together. And another tip for you during that time, like especially if it can be a tough time, especially if you're an extrovert like I am, and I was feeling that stranded stranger dynamic and feeling left out. Don't just sit around waiting and wondering, what the heck are they doing? When are they going to get back?
Mope.
Clock watching, moping. Yeah. That's a perfect time in the whole rhythm thing of figuring out what that personal care time, that self-care time is going to look like. That would be a great time for me to go and hang with my buddies at the coffee shop or whatever that looks like. So show some excitement to your stepchild around it. And then while they're gone, go do something for yourself.
Yeah. And share that with your stepchild too. Wow. Well, you and mom were roller skating. I got to go have coffee with my buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then your stepchild knows that you're okay too. Everyone's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, when it comes to step relationships and when it's appropriate, it's actually really important to set up a good rhythm of one-on-one time in those relationships as well.
Absolutely.
That was a little nerve-wracking for me early on with Annika, just being alone with her.
Did you start out with tea parties?
Yeah, I think we did. Like you were just in the other room and I drank that dirty water she'd always have in that teapot. It was so gross, but you had to drink it anyway. Yeah, I haven't thought about that in a long time. But, you can just start with those small things, just like I did, sitting there with her little tea party and her little dolls set up around, if that's where your kid is at this stage. But you can also just come in, if you got a gamer, come in and ask your stepchild, what's this game about? Can you show me how it works? And just for like 5 minutes and then say, cool, thanks.
Yeah. Or about a project they're working on at school.
Or invite them into a project you're working on around the house.
If they're interested.
Something small and simple. But that step relationship one-on-one time is important. So what's that healthy rhythm for family time? The whole family, as well as the one-on-one time with the kids.
Yeah, you got to think about both.
Yeah, all about healthy rhythm. Wow, we have thrown a lot at you in this episode.
We hope you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah, so let's think about a next step. If you think that you might struggle to have this conversation with your spouse, then maybe your next step, I think we said it earlier, is just simply to ask if they'd be willing to listen to this episode with you. If you can listen to it together, you can start to build a plan around how you're going to build your plan. Right? But if you're ready to just dive into planning, then your next step might be simply to sit down together and brainstorm just the next 2 weeks. Like you're not etching this in stone and because it's got to change as the seasons change. It'll look different 6 months from now than it does today. And that's okay. But for right now, the first step is just say, you know what, for the next 2 weeks, what would a healthy rhythm look like for us in this season at the stage the kids are at to make sure that we're investing personal time, couple time, and family time?
Yeah. And don't let yourself get overwhelmed. That's why we say take 2 weeks first. Yeah. Don't make it a big, huge project at first. And remember that you're not going to get it right every time.
That's right.
This is about making imperfect progress. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to mess up. Your spouse is going to mess up. And that's okay. Yeah. But you just keep at it. And it's not as overwhelming as it sounds. We've thrown a lot of stuff at you. Yeah. But once you get in there and start planning and get that rhythm clicking, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Absolutely.
Now, building this plan together and then working the plan as a team, that can go a long way in bringing unity and then reducing those feelings of being a trapped teammate or a stranded stranger. Yeah. It can really help.
It definitely can. All right. So if any of this has resonated with you or if it's been valuable today, we would really love it if you'd head over to iTunes and just leave us a review. We really do read every review, and we would love your help in reaching other couples.
Yeah. And make sure that you tune into our next episode where we're going to help you learn more about managing different parenting styles. We get asked about that all the time.
Yep. All right, hon. Looks like that's a wrap for episode 3.
All right,
All right.
See you next time.
Talk to you next time.